So with housekeeping out of the way, I'll pass the baton to Gina, and she will introduce our expert panelists and get us started. Gina?
Thank you so much, Howard. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I am beyond excited to have these three experts who spend so much of their time researching and sharing information about job scams. These are the best of the best, and you're going to get so much information today. It's going to be just incredible. For starters, we have Mark Anthony Dyson. He offers career advice. He does career advice writing, a multimedia creator. He has written and published more than in 20 plus publications. He's written over 1,000 articles in careers and job search. He's been featured in hundreds of blogs, publications, podcasts, and books, including mine. So proud to have him in there. And then he's also created the Job Scam Report in May of 2024 when we started just seeing job scams run rampant. And he is also the voice of job seekers since July of 2011. I am going to be putting in Mark and our other panelists' information in the chat regularly so you can find them and their publications. You need to sign up for Mark Anthony Dyson's Substack for sure. Ashley Price-Horton, she is the owner of Cyber Career Advancement, GRC Nerds, and CyberTribe. She's helped her clients land more than 4 million in real job offers in GRC. She's a former software engineer, recruiter, and career services advisor. She knows her stuff. She's passionate about helping as many people as possible make a decent living doing what they love. She's a mom. Oh, this is my favorite about Ashley, mom of 3 kids. And as a fun fact, she was a competitive Irish dancer who placed first in her first ever competition. I love that fun fact. So great. You can find her at cybercareeradvancement.com. And Jay Jones, owner of the Profiler Protection Service. He has taken down more than 31,000 fake jobs and over 7,000 fake profiles off of LinkedIn due to his diligent research. He's a senior copywriter who was laid off in December of 23. Can you imagine being a copywriter in the world of AI? And set out to help job seekers while looking for work at the same time. And that's how he's uncovered so many scams. He hates the state of the job market and how inaction and lack of urgency enable scammers. And recently, he released volume 2 of the Profiler's Scam Detection Guide. And we will be promoting that through the chat as well and in a follow-up email. Really, it's something that you may want to consider purchasing because he gives you real examples and screenshots of what these scams look like. It's absolutely mind-boggling. What we're going to do to kick off is my trusty partner, Michael, is going to share with us a few polls because we want our audience to start participating right away. And our panelists want to see what people are grappling with out there. So we have a couple polls for you to do. One is, have you ever been approached by a scammer? Yes or no, or I don't know. Any are appropriate. So that's the first one. Have you ever been approached by a scammer? I'm seeing people vote already. And then we have, and if so, what was the approach? You have multiple choice to pick: email, phone, or text, other. And then, did you report this scam? And if so, what was the outcome? So yes, the scammer was deleted, nothing happened. You're just too frustrated and you gave up. Did you block them? So let's get a couple of things going here. I'm seeing people participate, so we know people are on the line. That's awesome. Keep it coming. Take a sip of that morning coffee or afternoon, whatever you're having, and give us a vote.
Energy
Michael,
drinks count too.
Michael, how long do we go for the polling? We've got
Now let's end it in 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Vote or hold your peace. We have almost 90% of the people on the line participating. This is awesome. So for our panelists, this is the information we have. Have you ever been approached by a scammer? Yes, 77%. If so, what was the approach? What we're seeing is kind of an even split with email, phone and text, and a little bit on LinkedIn right after that. And then we have, did you report the scam? And for the most part, it's no, I just blocked them. And then there's
Mhm.
a kind of an even distribution with, yes, the scammer was deleted, nothing happened, and I've been very frustrated by the process. So that gives us a little runway to start with. So I'm going to start with my friend Jay Jones with getting us kicked off. And so the first thing that we want to talk about, because we need to set the stage for the audience, is what is the psychology behind these job scams? Would you get us started?
Yeah, so the psychology behind it, it starts with you being laid off. And, you, in most cases, you invest your time, your energy, years, if not decades, to get into the position that you're in, which was my case being a senior copywriter. And then when you get the news that often it's cold that you're being laid off, and then a lot of things go through your mind. You wonder about caring for yourself, caring for your family, how things are gonna, continue to be stable for you. And in that process, the first thing that's hit is not only your income, but it's really your confidence because you think that it's easier to understand if you were a subpar performer and you get laid off. But if you're doing well, you're excelling, you're raising your hand for more projects, you've had great and glowing reviews, and then suddenly you're told you're laid off, it's a major blow. And so it's actually the intro of my scam detection guide, how I set the stage, because now you're primed to be scammed because you're in this mindset of feeling devalued, feeling really hurt by that whole process. And so scammers take advantage of that by coming to you with their different overtures. And I call them the recruiting love bombers because what they do is they'll say you're wonderful, they'll say how amazing you are. They'll say things like, how could someone of your caliber be in this job market for this such a time as this? And what you do is you'll take that compliment and you'll feel like, hey, I'm getting a lot of attraction, I'm getting a lot of attention, and I won't be in the job market this long. And that's what they count on. They count on you needing to act fast. And when you act fast by just as simply sending your resume, they'll tell you that it failed the ATS, which is a lie. They'll send out a screenshot and typically say your resume scored like 20 points out of 100 for this ATS score, but that's another lie because the ATS is simply a digital filing cabinet. All it does is hold your resume, and then a real recruiter looks at it. And if you're a great match for the role, then you'll be reached out to. And so those are the initial processes of how they approach you from a psychological standpoint. They play on your fear, your hit to your confidence, and use that to walk you down what I call a scammer pipeline and ultimately fake offers. But we'll get into those things later.
That sounds great. So what you're saying is, it's easy to become a victim when we start to feel vulnerable or feeling anxious about our job search. And so we want to believe whatever's coming into us, like, oh, somebody is interested in me. So it's really easy to act fast because you want to be the first one applying for said job, but there may not be said job, correct?
Yeah, very much so, because in the age of AI and auto applying apps, what you see, what everyone sees when you apply for a role is within an hour, you have hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. And so
Mhm.
you're like trying to be fast, but in that speed is how you quickly get conned.
Excellent. So what I'd like to do is have our other panelists weigh in on the psychology of job scams because we have a lot of topics we're going to cover. Ashley, what would you say about the psychology of job scams and how people can be more aware about not becoming a victim?
Yeah, what I'll say is always research an opportunity. When one comes across you, don't get so blindsided by emotion. You have to tell yourself, okay, I'm getting really excited about this. Let me stop and let me do some due diligence. Even for myself, the other day, I was looking at a role that I had worked with many years ago. And I was like, oh, they're currently hiring, right? But then in my excitement to share this with my network, I said, let me take a step back and let me do some research and identify that that wasn't the same company. That company had put the words USA at the ending of their
Mm.
website. And so it was a completely different company. And so I say that to say your emotions can sometimes play tricks on you. You have to be willing to take a step back and be objective in your research all the time, every single time.
Every single time. Mark, what would you say about the psychology of job scams? What have you noticed? You've been writing about this for so long.
Yes, and I think the mindset begins before you even the job search. If you are not spraying and praying, but you're being really intentional about applying to jobs, that fit your role. In fact, you even can look at different industries to see what skills fit your roles, and you can apply to those industries. That way you have a lot more options. People often do the opposite. They're applying to anything that looks remotely right, or in some cases they don't have an industry per se, so they're applying to everything. More than likely, if you apply to 100 jobs, there's going to be some that are fake or ghost or both in some
Mhm.
instances. So therefore, it's really important for people to have the mindset is that you're going to be really intentional, you're going to be real purposeful, you've researched the salary for state, region, you've done all that homework. So when you do get something fake, you can recognize it right away. So that's not even realistic. In most cases, it
Mhm.
is it. But if you're in the mindset that you are have a scarcity mindset, you're trying to apply to everything, you're spraying and praying, you're looking for the next opportunity because you have the layoff PTSD, you have the unemployment fatigue. So therefore, you're kind of drawn and you're running on empty, so to speak, and so you're likely to fall for one of these. But if you set your mind straight at the beginning and just become really purposeful, it really helps to even connect with job clubs, online groups like this, and other places where you can get the feedback and get the encouragement, then you'll be less likely, not completely, scam free, but you can be better set off because you have done the work beforehand.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question for Ashley. I'm wondering, because I think a lot of people are going to want to know this right off the bat. And I know you spend a lot of time with your job seeking clients on this. How do you validate a job opening?
So, great question. So, I actually have started to encourage people to move away from job boards like LinkedIn, move away from job boards like Indeed, and instead go straight to the sources. So, go straight to your JP Morgan's job board, go straight to your Microsoft job board, go straight to the company's job board that's actually hiring and look through theirs. And I even like to have a list. I created a list. It has like 500 companies. It has their career websites. I'm going to be posting it on the website later this week for everybody else. But I like to go straight to the source. So if you are taking the approach of going on Indeed or you're taking the approach of going on LinkedIn, before you click on any link, because sometimes those like click this button will take you to some really dangerous websites. I like to say instead, create a whole new tab, go straight to the legitimate company's website, and then do your search there because sometimes it will say that a post was just published 3 hours ago. And actually, that post was published 3 months ago on the original careers website, if you take a look. So,
Mhm.
when in doubt, try to go straight to the company's website, not the third parties.
You know, there's going to be a lot of people here listening that may also be talking with recruiters that are not in-house. So that could be executive search consultants who have legit openings and they're not able to reveal upfront who the company is. We've discussed in the past those reasons. They need to be anonymous because maybe somebody's being let go or they don't want they don't want their customers to know that a senior level person is leaving that role. There's a lot of reasons why an executive search firm or another search firm may not be able to initially say what company it is to where the applicant cannot apply directly. It's you've got to go through the search firm. Do any of you have some advice? Okay, Ashley, we'll go right back to you. What is your advice in this case?
So I've actually been a person who was hired through a third party firm like that. So I can speak very, very well to that. What I would like to say is before you go with them, you need to do your due diligence and make sure that that company that's reaching out to you is legitimate. Like for me, I utilize a company called Tech Systems. They're very well known and respected. But if somebody approached me that I didn't know and I couldn't find any research on them, I highly likely wouldn't go with them. I just want to take the risk. The risk to reward is not in favor of me. So I would say do your research additionally first.
Okay. And you know what I would say, just because I'm affiliated with Talents Group Executive Search, and Sherry Kitsowen is a former Intel alum and the CEO of Talents Group, you can go to Talents Group. You can see all the people on her homepage. Then you can go to LinkedIn and see that they have thousands of people that they're connected with, really healthy network. And they're not just a fly by night recruiter. And these are people that have a long time of employment too with the same company. So again, due diligence is key. I'm going to shift and talk and ask Mark about what's new in job scams today. How are some of these job scams evolving?
Well, one of the biggest things that we see deepfake videos are probably becoming the next big thing. We're seeing that now the softwares begin to catch up. People may not have to do the John Cena test, which is you see something might be suspect in an interviewer or somebody on a Zoom call or any other call. The lips are kind of slow. Therefore, you got to kind of identify, okay, they don't seem real. So you ask the person, hey, can you see me? And that's what I call the John Cena test. If you know, you know. But now, being that a lot of the software, Google VO3 has a software, as well as I believe Sora 2 is one that has been thrown around recently, where these videos come alive. And they're eventually going to catch up to where this could be a real conversation with the four of us with nothing but avatars that look, realistic. So job seekers are going to have to really start to identify very deeply the real companies and how they interview. You got to start asking those questions. Hey, how was my first interview? Is it with the avatar? Is it with a real person? What to expect? You've got to look at some of the prototypes to really be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's not real, even though it's not it's practically at our doorstep. But the technology is going to say, there's got to be some way for us to catch up to technology if we're coming out. And I feel bad for those who might be in a situation like federal government employees who are experiencing the shutdown. Some of them may not make it back to their jobs and not get paid for what they've done in the past. So they're going to be pretty vulnerable to whoever may say, hey, we got a special government program and you may have to take this fake certificate program to get into the program, and then you've got to pay somebody else to do something else. And that's just a hypothetical, but that's a possibility. You've got to be able to tell the difference if they're using some kind of video. So that's one of the big ones I think is kind of the biggest concern on my mind, because we validate everything through video. We tell people, hey, you're going to have video interviews. Now, you possibly may have a fake video interview if you're not careful.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Hey, Jay, I wanted to kind of go back to you. I was reading your awesome guide, the scam detection guide this morning, and you talk about scam killing questions in that
Mhm.
guide. Could you give the audience a taste of what they could get in that guide? What are scam killing questions?
Yeah, so the questions originate from you having the mindset that you're still in control of your career, because like I mentioned, when it comes to the mindset and being psychologically hampered by being laid off, it puts you in this position of feeling overly compliant. So you don't want to ask critical questions because you're trying to move fast and have that recruiter who you believe is real get you to a real opportunity. But when you do that, you lose the executive decision making that you have over your career. So ask questions like, who are you? Who have you placed recently? Where can I find you outside of LinkedIn? Because a lot of the fake recruiters, they don't have pictures anywhere else on the internet. They don't have any other social presence at all. And they have these bloviated titles and these dream career arcs. So, they'll say they worked at Tesla, they'll say they worked at Microsoft, they say they worked at Apple, because they're doing this process of using reputable companies to make you fall in love with the idea that, oh, this is a trusted person. So since they made it to these places, they can get me into these places. So ask questions like, who are you? What is the name of your company? What is the website? What is the job requisition number? So you can search that rec number to see whether or not it actually is a real one. You can do Boolean search where you copy the job description, put quotes around it in Google, and then you can see, as to Ashley's earlier point, which I see constantly, is jobs that will be listed on LinkedIn for like 3 hours and you think it's a fresh job. But when you search for it using the quotes I mentioned, you'll find that exact same job description is like 3 months old, or the job is actually closed. And that ties into job scraping, because job scraping is where companies, quote unquote, can take job descriptions that they have no affiliation with, put them on their pages on LinkedIn, and act like they're hiring for the role. But what they're doing is they're being interlopers in the process and getting your email or whatever information they can to data harvest and sell your data to third party data brokers. So it's a massive thing. But back to the scam killing questions is have power and know that you're valuable and know that you have the right to ask questions and be critical so you can make sure you're not entering into a scam.
Thank you. One thing that comes up for me when the three of us had this discussion as we prepared for our session together is I think that job seekers can build up some calluses and be really wary of everything coming at them.
Yeah.
And then when they have a real human, a real recruiter reaching out for an awesome opportunity, there could be a tendency to not communicate back with that person in the warmest of ways because they've
Yeah.
been deflecting. So what would you have our audience know about being vigilant while still maintaining that level of human that other people want to hire and not being too abrasive?
Yeah, that's why I say stay vigilant because there's a difference between being vigilant and paranoid. Paranoid is you think everybody's out to get you, and vigilant is scammers are out to get you. So when you have that ability to compartmentalize, and this is the other thing I say, real recruiters know what is going on in the job market. They know how hard it is because scammers make their jobs much more difficult because they hamper the job process. They apply as other people. They steal jobs. They steal their titles, content from their profiles. And so when you're approaching them respectfully, just say, hey, I'm very leery about scams. So can you just answer these few questions for me? I'm sure they'll be more amenable to that because they know that you're doing your due diligence and you're making their job easier at the same time.
Thank you for those who are tuning in, listening to the whole thing, and you want to go back to what Jay just said. It's at minute 23. I think it's really, really important to keep that balance of vigilance and the warmth that we need to be the hireable candidate that people want to hire. I'm going to shift a little bit. Ashley, what would you say about identifying fake profiles? And I know all of the panelists have, tips on this, so I'm going to start with you and work my way through.
Okay, there are a few things that you can do to identify fake profiles because they are rampant, especially on LinkedIn. Number one, I would say never are you going to see a recruiter repost that you are open to work and say kindly, that's like their favorite word, right? Kindly send me a message or kindly reach out to me as I think I have the perfect opportunity for you. That's the classic sign. And you can find that by going to that profile's comment section under their posts. Another thing, they'll usually have very little contacts. Sometimes they have a lot. But what they'll tend to do is create a hyperlink that says 500 plus LinkedIn connections to make you think that they have 500 plus connections when really it's just you click that link and you're going to somewhere fraudulent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some other things is they will steal profile pictures of actual reputable individuals. Like I have seen on Jay's profile, people steal pictures of like Obama and
Joe
Bill
Biden,
Clinton.
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
James Bond, Daniel
Yeah,
Craig.
James Bond, Daniel Craig, Batman, Iron Man, Tony Stark.
Even
It's a mess.
even people that aren't well known, they will still try to take their pictures. Like I identified a gentleman who was a vice president of a real estate organization, and somebody had taken their profile or tried to comment under my post, and I had to expose it and let that individual know. So do your due diligence, but these are just a few warning signs. Jay and Mark will share a lot more, I'm sure.
I'm going to run through the panel. I will say I've had my own profile identity stolen and impersonated on Blue Sky, and I didn't know until one of my coaching colleagues got an outbound message that didn't sound like Gina Riley. So it can happen on all these different platforms, and it can happen to those who are doing coaching, career advisement, and resume development as well. It is happening every single day. In fact, some of my friends have hired Jay to be that guide on the side and looking for these nefarious actors. So just be aware that it's happening even to just an everyday coach who's trying to
Yeah, yeah.
help people like you in the audience. So Jay, what would you say about looking at and identifying fake profiles?
Yeah, I call what I actually mentioned when they use the manipulation of the custom URL. I call that gaming the URL because they know that a major tell is minimal followers, but you claim to be a VP of recruiting. And so what they did to try to make themselves look legitimate was they would write in 500 plus connections, or literally I saw one profile do 1 million followers. Like I always say, I never accuse them of being smart, but they do whatever they can to try to look real. And I always say that the more they try to hide, the more they reveal themselves. And so I made it more difficult on them to pull this stuff off. But a lot of fake profiles, like Ashley said, they'll do the repost, which ties back into your mindset of needing people's attention, needing to get to a real job opportunity. Because when you see this VP of recruiting for Robert Half or Insight Global or Korn Ferry or any other reputable talent firm, you'll think, oh, hey, I'm getting some information, I'm getting some traction, I'm getting some attention, and you'll reach out, they want your resume, and then they'll lead you to that ATS nonsense once again. But other fake profiles, they are hijack profiles. And so what I've seen as a major uptick is literally thousands of profiles that are inactive, that are verified and premium, have been compromised by scammers, and then they use those profiles to reach out to people. So since they're trying to move fast, I've seen construction workers suddenly pivot into being resume writers. So a major tell of a hijack profile is if you look at the career history, it doesn't match what they're doing. So if a construction worker who has historically been a construction worker is suddenly a resume writer, you most likely have a hijack profile. And a lot of them are being more tricky by doing their dirt in the message sections as opposed to commenting. But I have a lot of people who send me messages and they ask me, I get hundreds of messages a week of people saying, hey, is this profile, what do you think about this? And I'll tell them 9 times out of 10 that it's a hijack profile. And so once I find out, I'm on it.
Right. One thing that occurred to me too is when I'm looking at profiles, especially even accepting a connection request, I'll go in and see the recently posted activity
Mhm.
and I'll see what it is they're engaging with. And if it's off topic or it's just strange or it has nothing to do with that company, it may be even commenting on things that are happening in other countries that are just super irrelevant. It's kind of a red flag because your straight up the middle recruiter isn't involved with all that other activity. They're too busy trying to recruit and do their jobs. So Mark, I
Pardon
just
me,
really
pardon,
want to. Oh yeah,
pardon me really quick. There's one caveat to that I forgot to mention. The reposting, what the profiles will do if they take over a profile that actually is a recruiter that works at a company like Salesforce or whatnot, or they're trying to look like they're affiliated with the company they're pretending to work for, they'll repost a bunch of content from that company to look real.
oh my gosh. Okay. Mark, anything else on fake profiles that we feel like the audience should know that we did not cover?
Yeah, I want to cover. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mhm.
I had to
Yep.
switch, I had to do some things here. One thing I want to cover is kind of the other side is that people do press links when they see profiles just to test. And one of the things you want to do is avoid going to the site where they have posted because they more than likely they'll install spyware or malware of some kind to track your activities across the web and even to your financial information, which you want to clearly avoid. But there's a you could check a site before you go to it. If you have any doubts at all, it's called whois.com, and it will tell you who the site owner is. If you know that Adecco is, or this, or whatever firm, it could be an executive search firm,
Mhm.
they've existed for many years. You go and put that URL, but they create the site. It says that that site owner is not the one that the company owns, and they
Mm,
just created the last 6 months, then that's the one you want to avoid for sure, because that's not how companies operate, especially those who've been in the industry for many years. They don't give their site to some person to
mm,
own for themselves, they own it themselves. So
mm.
Yeah.
that's one of the really critical things I think people need to recognize. If you don't want to go through all that, just put the URL part in Google or whatever. You can even use Brave, and it will legitimatize or not legitimatize the site's existence. If it says it doesn't exist, if they can't find it, then that you need to avoid that for sure. But I think people need to get in behavior of noticing that a lot of times the URLs are fake, and they'll say, if it has a, it's the same thing that everybody sees. Everybody knows that if a recruiter says he has a Gmail, Yahoo, or Outlook account, that's not somebody that's going
That's,
to want to be involved with. But
that's
even more so, yeah, but even though people may even use the extensions to it, let's say they have a URL name, and after the at, it may say careers dash adeco.com. That's a no-go, because that's not something that, again, the company will allow to do for, even if it's a special assignment. The company's proprietary information and employees associated with them are going to use the associated URL that's proper for them. So
sure.
I
Be
would say
vigilant,
that's the, yeah,
then
that's,
verify.
yeah, it says to clarify, verify, but don't just apply. You got to check everything out, no matter how laborious
Good,
it
it seems, yeah.
at
Yeah,
the
all
time.
right.
It's going to be worth your time.
All right, I'm going to cut in here with two things. One is one person put in the chat about how recruiters will block the ability to see their connections. This is something that I have done as a recruiter, and that is a standard practice because there are people that want to go into the connections and then poach candidates or see who they're connected to. And so that is I would say that is not unusual, and don't allow that to be your only discernment point, because I've got mine blocked as well for, I think, really good reasons. I'm also protecting the people in my network so that people aren't reaching out to them through me for that reason. The other thing is we've got some Q&A. We've got, what do you know about the reason Indeed, LinkedIn, and other companies forcing signing arbitration agreements just to apply or use their app? I have not heard of this. Have you all? Ashley?
Yeah.
In the terms of conditions. So usually what people don't realize is when you go onto these companies' websites and you're utilizing their services, you're typically bound by their terms of conditions. And in their terms of conditions, they will usually have stipulations where it's like, as a user of here, you cannot hold us um, as harming you for anything that comes as a result of using our services, and you're bound by it, right? And so it's to protect them more so than you. It's really to protect you. So when they have fake jobs listed on their job board, and you apply to it and you become a victim, they don't want to be held liable for that, which is why they have that in their clause. Now, if you don't agree with it, don't use the website, because now you're bound by it.
Okay, okay. I have another thing in the Q&A. It's not a Q. It's WHOLS, WHOLS, can be your friend for checking URLs. Have you heard of that as a way to check URLs?
There's about
No, no.
20 of them. There's about 20 of them. I listed on the job scan report as a post. I'll have to find it, and I can kind of send it along. But there's 20 of them where you could check the sites and the different nuances. So there's one where you could check, like, who is a great
It's who
one.
is. They
I was
just
going to say,
compressed it. Thank you.
Oh, is it?
Got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to say there's about 20, and I didn't memorize all 20.
It was just a typo. Mark, if you give that to me, we will include that when we put our YouTube
I
link
could put
up.
it. I'll put it in the chat. How about that?
And I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Theodore.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just read it as it was. And then another question came through. Should we re-verify our existing connections? I have my own feeling about it. What do you think, Jay?
It's a arduous task if you have a lot of connections, but I would say yes. And the reason is because it's one of the services that I offer to people if they, want to work with me, is vetting their connections, because what these foreign scammers or stateside scammers, predominantly foreign ones, they send out these connection requests, and they know that most people don't diligently ask, like, why are you connecting with me? Because it's kind of an awkward conversation if, like, someone is reaching out and they're like, why did you connect with me? Because you don't want to be that guy or that, that woman to be difficult in accepting a request. So most people just blindly accept it. But what certain scammers do that are more savvy is they quietly build authority by connecting with people in the industries they're pretending to work in, connecting with leaders and different people in senior roles. Because I've seen profiles that have had 23,000 real followers and over like 10,000 connections, but it was entirely fake.
Hmm.
The example, it was a profile named Lillian Warimo. She pretended to work for Disney, had been on LinkedIn for maybe like 8+ years. And it was actually a stolen photo of a Nigerian attorney who wasn't on LinkedIn. And you wouldn't know that it was fake because they didn't post any of the kind leads, they didn't do any nefarious activity, but it was just there quietly building authority so that it could be something that could direct job seekers to the other ones that are more easy to spot.
Awesome. Thank you for that. What would
Gina,
you say? Oh, Mark, you have one more?
yes, I just wanted to add on as kind of a caveat to it. It's kind of a combination between what Jay and Ashley had already said. That when people go to certain sites, it, you'll notice that we talk about scraping profiles. We have to talk a little bit about scraping sites because that's what scammers would do to build their own URL. They can change a letter.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can just change a letter and make it seem like instead of Microsoft with one T, Microsoft now has two T's. Now, most people don't catch spell check. In fact, a lot of people, their eyes play tricks on them when they see a lead or something that could mislead them. The nuance is that the, the, the scammer has scraped information from the original site and put it on theirs.
Hmm.
Mm.
The gold mine is to look to see what kind of content they have. Do they have the depth of content? In most cases, they don't. But I will say there are times when, too, that there are companies that they'll scrape it from a startup. And a lot of the startups don't have a lot of content on their site.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you could very well be looking at a real company, but it's a startup and the scammer could have the exact same content because it's not much there. They just started. So then you have to go back to vetting the person that approached you and relying on that information. So
Hmm.
I think people have to understand that part of it. It's a jungle out there, but you know, your mind could play tricks on you at the same time. Some of those tricks could really work in some cases, especially in case where there's content and websites involved.
Thank you. And Ashley, I got a great question in the Q&A. After sending your resume to a job scammer, what actions should you start taking after that?
Yeah, great question because this happened to me. Even me in cybersecurity a few years ago, I realized that I had submitted a lot of information to a scammer after having created a profile on Fiverr to sell services. I got scammed. So here's the steps that I took, and here's the steps that I would recommend you take. If you don't already, make sure that you have your credit bureau's accounts locked. Everything should be locked. And if you're saying, but how am I going to get a credit card and stuff? Unlock it a couple of hours before you apply and then lock it right back. It don't keep the door open. Okay? The next thing is immediately notify anybody who you might have put down as a reference on that document that you submitted.
Hmm.
Because sometimes scammers don't just want you, they want your references, they want your former managers, they want the downline. So make them aware that, hey, if somebody contacts you about me, don't share any information right now until I give you additional information. Okay? So make sure that you're protecting them. Um, the next thing is be mindful of the emails, messages, and calls that you will be receiving moving forward. A lot of times they are to trick you, not to give you an opportunity. So be vigilant. Don't be blinded. Don't click on any extra links. Block that person if you can, if you find their information, and report them as well.
There's
Okay.
another thing I'd like to add to that too. I always encourage people to never share their resume publicly. Like that used to be the thing to do, but when you have it public facing, like I always cringe when I see people post, their full resume, their email, phone number, all that. And you're just giving your information freely to people who will abuse it. And so I want people to look at their resumes like light credit card applications, because just with your resume, all scammers have to do is cross-reference that with sites like whitepages.com. I mean, and I've gone so deep in research, like I can find people's information, like on Zillow, you can find people's addresses, you can find people's relatives and things like that to break down how they can actually make these connections, because with your resume, they can cross-reference you to white pages. And if you look at it like it's a credit card application, it can place you through different phases of your life and then complete that application. And so the last part is somehow getting your social security number and whatnot. And that's where the fake job offers come in, because they'll do the flattery, they'll get you in the pipeline, they'll say you're wonderful, and then basically you get approved for this job offer, you're ready to start, and here comes the background check. And obviously with the background check, you need your driver's license and your social security number. And if you think that it's legitimate, you'll give it. And then by that time, you're ruined potentially.
So I have a couple questions in the Q&A, but what would you say about, because I got this I can see it in the chat. Pardon me. What would you say about the information that's actually on your LinkedIn profile? Because the LinkedIn profile and all those key words, the richness for searchability needs to be there, or else it's very hard to populate into those recruiter searches. So how do you strike a balance?
The balance is not sharing the personal information. So not sharing your phone number, not sharing your email publicly, like your job search, your job career history. Yes, you have to add that. But when it comes to sharing the resume itself and your personal information, only share that with somebody that you trust. So after you've done the due diligence and vetted them, like this is a recruiter, they work at this real place, and they're really actually giving you an opportunity, but the onus does rest with you to verify them.
Okay. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Back to the Q&A, a quick one for you, Mark. Someone who probably was laid off from Intel is my guess. They're in between jobs, and the 150 simplified ways to outsmart job scams is asking for a work email and a company address. So do you have a recommendation on how they fill that out so they can get that report?
They want the company that they're applying to wants a work email address.
I think do you have a report? 150 simplified.
Yeah, right. I do.
It asks for a work email and a company address. So I don't know if there's some other way that
Yeah, well, I think people shouldn't use their work email address to apply to jobs in any particular case, and they should create
no. This is for
Gmail
your article that I think you wrote.
Oh,
they're trying to download it. Yeah.
okay.
They're trying to download it.
Okay. Oh, that's what it is. I thought they were asking about the content. They just put put a Gmail address is usually better.
Okay.
Into the email.
Sounds good.
What they're asking.
And for folks who are listening in and you've got access to the chat, I'm putting every so often all three of the panelists' contact information and some of the things that you can be downloading. And I know Jay, we'll talk about it in a few minutes. He's got a discount through tomorrow on his scam detection guide. So I have another question. How many times does a LinkedIn account need to be reported in order for LinkedIn to take action?
It varies. I mean, for me, I'm an active scam deterrent. So a lot of times when the scammers know that I'm on them, they'll just abandon the profile and delete it and move on to another one. When it comes to the hijack profiles, there's an extensive reporting process where I have to get the URL, the first and last name of the person. I have to detail in the case I make to LinkedIn why this profile is hijacked. I'll lay it out. I'll be like, hey, they're doing this, this, and this. This is the real person they're impersonating, and then issue that report. And then within a day, or if not that same day, the profile is removed. But the reason is, I think that there's a way that these scammers can monitor when they get a report against the profile that they've taken over, and they'll just abandon it. I mean, I've seen profiles. There was most recently this guy Jeffrey McDougal, who was targeting women using Adobe's good name and selling resume writing services. It's a side business, but he basically take people's money and then block them. And there were reports, I'm sure, in the hundreds, if not thousands, gets the profile. Adobe was notified, LinkedIn was notified back in July when I reported it, and it wasn't taken down until about 2 days ago after I made a case about it as well. So there is no set number. of how many reports it takes to take it down. It's just constant pressure to the point where the scammer abandons the profile or LinkedIn sees the noise and is forced to act because largely they're just operating business as usual.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got another question. I don't totally understand it, so
I
I
see
might
it.
need, I need the person to maybe clarify. It asks for company information also and the phone number of the workplace. I'm not sure what the full question is. Do you, if this person, if Kamala, if you could like maybe put your question more fully in there, I'll try to get it in. We have 9 minutes before we're going to converge and have Howard take over. So I just want to let the audience know that. On Monday, I was impersonated with a certain fake Gmail account. Is there an email I can report to?
Oh, through Gmail?
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to, you can create as many Gmail accounts as you want to.
Oh,
So there isn't necessarily a way to do it. You can use your filters to make sure that they don't, send you anything else from that Gmail address again. But many times they pile on in creating hundreds of Gmails. And yes, it is possible. So therefore, they can just go through the list to use to scam certain types of people. So once you get caught there, there's no way. But definitely, if the Gmail seems strange at first, don't engage.
okay, thank you. And Mark, we'll just provide some clarity because we have very little time together. So we won't sort
Okay.
it out live, the how to download your outsmarting job scams, because it seems to be some kind of a challenge. Is it possible to follow a scammer? And if yes, what should you look for? Is it possible to follow a scammer? Ah, okay. Jay?
Yeah, because this is the other kind of scam is where people are engaging in content theft on LinkedIn to look like thought leaders, and what they're doing is they'll take content from other people that are either well known, like larger voices, and they'll take content from months, if not years ago, and then use it like it's their original thoughts.
Oh,
And then from there, you're following them, thinking that they're a thought leader, thinking that they're an expert in their industry. And then what they do is they use this following and this supposed thought leadership to sell courses, to sell seats for live events that they're hosting, but they're building it all on the back of somebody else's thought leadership. And so I've seen that many times where a lot of people they'll steal content talking about around like motivational quotes like you can get it, this is your opportunities coming, your interviews coming, stuff like that. And it's the kind of stuff that the algorithm loves, but there is also a part that involves pods where people get into these engagement agreements secretly, where they
mhm.
all agree to team up and like and comment on posts, and then they make arrangements with people overseas to be a part of bot farms and things like that to artificially boost the engagement. And so you think you're following somebody that's a legitimate thought leader, but they're using all of these multiple ways to deceive you to get your money.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And one of those telltales that I look for is just like the repeated, way to go, Steve, great
Yeah,
post,
yeah.
whatever. So what I want to do is take the last question that's in the Q&A, and then I want to give each of you like 2 minutes to like give your final, say here. So what's the general thought about recruiters residing in India that have more than 500 connections? I've been getting a lot of requests for contract jobs at tech companies, and I think this is super common. What would you say to that? Who wants to take it? Ashley?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll take it. I say I don't care where you are calling from. I'm going to go through the same process with you. I have landed a legitimate job opportunity as a contractor from a recruiter that contacted me from India. Right? And so I did my due diligence to verify them. So I contacted the main company. I identified whether or not they were actually employed or a partner with that company to actually do this recruiting. And so I like to research, and I don't assume that because they say they're with a company that they either are or they're not. I need evidence. So
Mhm.
always get your evidence.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I'm going to kick this over to Howard in 5 minutes, and I'd like to just do a round robin, let everyone, speak for just like another 90 seconds or so. So Mark, let's start with you. What's the final thing you would leave this audience with for this moment?
As I mentioned before, clarify, verify, but don't just apply. Research everything, vet everyone possible. Um, One of the biggest things that people will need to understand is that when you've got your mindset right, you can avoid a lot of the scams and you won't be tempted by too good to be true offers. None of them won't look good to you and it won't make sense. Disengage after the first sign. Don't try to look for other signs. If it looks suspicious that first time, disengage, block, report. And even though reporting doesn't always end up to where it is, it does end up in it does give more ammo for LinkedIn and any platform to see that there are patterns, and they do follow patterns because they're using bots that follow patterns. So
Thank you.
I would stick to that.
Thank you. So I'll say you can find Mark Anthony Dyson at substack.com. 150 simplified ways to outsmart job scams in 2025. There's a link in the chat, and then we will follow up in a matter of 2 days with information on our IAN website as well for those who are finding it a challenge to break into that. Ashley, let's go to you. What's your kind of closing 90 seconds that you would leave the audience with?
Yeah, my closing 90 seconds is do not allow desperation and your emotions to get you into a situation you cannot get out of. Always, always, always do your research, go to credible sources. And if you have to question whether or not the opportunity is legitimate or not, go with your gut and always make your gut the skeptical one. Okay? Don't go with it. The next thing is don't feel like because you're job hunting that you can't have any income coming in. I always tell my clients while you're job hunting, continue to have income coming in because it doesn't have to come to a 9 to 5. In fact, this weekend on Saturday, I'm going to be hosting a workshop where I show 77 different ways in which you can bring in extra income each month without a 9 to 5 job. Jay has been an attendee of it in the past. You can find that on my LinkedIn as well if you'd like to attend. But just know that you should have some kind of income coming in while you're job hunting so that you do not become desperate and become a prime target for scammers.
Is that an event that people can sign up for, like attend?
Yes, so you can attend. This is a pay what you can event. So even if you're like, I'm really low on funds, I only have $1, you can
Okay,
attend it as well. The goal is for as many people as possible to have income coming in while job hunting. So it's
that
the
is so great.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Ashley. So I put Ashley's information in the chat again. LinkedIn, she's at A Price-Horton on LinkedIn. She's at cybercareeradvancement.com. If you're curious about careers in that space, reach out to Ashley. She's amazing. And now we're going to go to Jay Jones. Jay, what would you leave the audience with today?
That you're valuable, that what happened to you and what's happening in this market is not a reflection of you. Um, it's a chaotic time, but I'm trying to help people find peace within it and get to real opportunities faster. I release volume 2 of my scam detection guide. It's normally $49.99, but if you use code Intel, it's $39.99 through the end of business tomorrow. I've gotten 31,991 fake jobs off LinkedIn, but what I've learned is that you can't depend on the platform, any platform, to look out for you. There are a lot of things put in place that say things are being done, but when you look at the action, it starkly contrasts what is being said. And so for me, I asked myself the question at the beginning of this journey, did it have to be like this? And the answer was no. And so to get to this point, I'm happy to see the results and be here before you to help more people be safe. You can find me on LinkedIn /N Jones Do You Copy. Website is jonesdoyoucopy.com for my copywriting work. And then if also you're interested in the profiler protection service, that information is available on my LinkedIn profile while I build the website for that too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay Jones, the profiler, as he is known, and that scam detection guide. I've been honored to get a sneak peek at that. It is 50, 60 pages full of examples, screenshots, all those things that you're wondering, how do I identify these scams? Jay has dedicated so much time. I can't even tell you. So support him, support his effort. And please go to LinkedIn and at minimum follow these 3 people. And if you heard him here today and you want to be first degree connected, just send him a little message. I saw you on the IAN, um, our webinar, and I appreciate the work that you're doing because I'm sure it would make their day. Everyone is here pro bono, sharing their wisdom. So Ashley, Jay, Mark, Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm so glad you're in my network because you know things I do not know. So thank you, thank you. And Howard, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Well, thank you hugely. Thank you to Gina for assembling yet another outstanding panel. And Mark, Ashley, and Jay, we certainly appreciate your time and your leadership, your thought leadership. And we definitely look forward to seeing more of you and the products that you're producing and services you're producing. So I'd also like to make you, the audience, aware of our next event 2 weeks from today. That's on October 22nd. This will be from 9 to 10:15 a.m. Pacific time. And the event is Humanity Celebrates 50 Years of Mars Exploration with the Viking Mission. This is going to be presented by Intel alumna Rachel Tillman, who is also the founder and director of the Viking Mars Missions Education and Preservation Project, and also is the daughter of one of the members of the original Viking mission team. And she'll share how the team achieved really audacious computing, engineering, science, and political feats using 1970s technologies. Clearly, if you're an Intel alum, chances are you've always had an interest in technology, science, and/or space. So this program will combine all those interests and should be a must-see for you. For those of you who would like to review any of the great content from today, the recording of this session will be available later this week on the intelalumni.org/events page for you to review, along with all of the other Path to Next events sessions and our other sessions as well. When you visit our website, you will also notice a contribute link at the far right on the top menu bar. If you value the programming like this Path to Next series, the upcoming Viking program, and our other thought leadership events, as well as many new programs that are in the works now for the balance of the year and early next year, that we are continuing to provide at no cost to our members, we respectfully ask that you consider making a non-tax deductible contribution to the Intel Alumni Network to enable us to continue delivering this programming that you value. So to both our attendees and our panelists, thank you once again for your participation and engagement today. Have a great week, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our next event.